You just press play on the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it.
Welcome everybody to episode 158 of the Last Breath Huntcast. Sorry for the short break, but we were all recovering from the Last Breath launch party, and today that's what we're going over. We appreciate you being here. I got Grant sitting next to me.
Whoop, whoop.
And we're going to go ahead and get the bills paid really quick. This podcast is presented by Badlands Gear. We've been proud partners of them for quite a while. We love their gear. They've got some really cool suits that are coming out this season, and we've already starting to get the bombardment of requests for the discount code.
Ooh, guess what I just did the other day with this?
What?
With our discount code, I bought a new set of 4 pairs of work pants. My Badlands Scree pants are like my favorite pants to wear to work because they're like dressy. You know, enough to wear with my dress shoes and everything like that, and a shirt that's collared and maybe a tie. So I really like wearing those. They're $100 on Badlands website. But using our code, you can get them for $70, and they make it in the large tall size. They just launched 2 new colors the other day: Alpine Blue and Forest Green.
Well, and the thing is that
those are my favorite pants. Though.
Some people might think, man, $70 for work pants. The caveat is this: lifetime warranty.
Yep.
Like, you will spend that much on a pair of nice jeans. Like, I really like Lucky brand jeans. They fit my thunder thighs well, you know. Mm-hmm. But they're every bit of $75 a pair. Or yep. if you're like, one of those guys that buys Carhartts or Ariat, like those pants are really expensive. Mm-hmm. But once you wear the legs out, or you get a tear in them, or you walk the cuffs off the back, they're
so
shot.
Comfortable too.
But anyway, so our discount code with those guys over there, use this on their website, and I think right now they're even running a free shipping promotion. That's Last Breath 22 BL30. Again, Last Breath 22 BL30, all one word, all caps. That'll get you 30% off at the checkout code. Next is Outdoor Edge. We've been using their stuff before we were partners with them. They've got some really cool new stuff. Actually, they're getting into the lifestyle type of knives and cutlery as well as other things. But obviously, those razor knives, those are their tried and true. The ones that, with a click of the button, you have a scalpel sharp blade that fast. Using the code LBTV25, again, that's LBTV25, get 25% off at the checkout code. Make sure you get your fresh knives, new blades, anything you need before season hits. And then lastly, this podcast, we're gonna shout out Exodus MMT. We're shooting those arrows this year. We actually just got them in. I'm excited to start shooting them, put them through some paper, see how they're gonna penetrate. Everybody that I know that's gotten these have been floored by them. The build quality, the packaging that we've just received was pretty impressive. And if you want to hear more about those, we're actually going to do a podcast next week covering those arrows, what our builds are for them, and everything about the MMT. So, getting into episode 158.
I feel like we should shout Wayne out, too, because episode 158, we're going to be talking about the launch party, and what better a way to start than with Wayne. So, for those of you guys that came, the doors opened at 6 o'clock last Friday on the 19th. Mm-hmm. It was an awesome night, and it couldn't have been any better for the guest to walk into. I don't know how many total he brought, but it was a lot. It filled up the big buck rack easily from front to end. So we built like a 60-foot rack, and there's deer hanging every about 2 feet. So we had a lot of people that were able to pick up their mounts that they have not seen, obviously since they dropped that deer off to Wayne over the wintertime. And for Wayne to be able to kick out 30 of those mounts, bring them to the launch party, I mean, that's phenomenal service. It's phenomenal quality for them to be able to, because lots of those deer were killed in the late season as well. There were many guys that killed in December and January that brought those deer in there.
A lot of firearm deer.
Yeah, a lot of firearm deer. And for Wayne to be able to do that, transport those out of there, I mean, Wayne has always strived to be less than a 1-year lead time and start with a fresh slate come deer season the following year.
Right.
And I think that's big because that's something not a lot of taxidermists do. And that's just one thing that I can say about Wayne's turnaround time with Michael. I mean, it's not just him. There's 2 people full-time mounting deer every single day in his shop, and they are just highly organized. Wayne is a phenomenal communicator. And I know, too, I feel like it would be easy if you were, a person that owned your own business to kind of call the shots on, maybe letting stuff like that slide. But that's one of Wayne's priorities, and that's one thing I always appreciate is that if I call Wayne, not only is he going to answer, if he misses me, he's going to call me back within the day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be left in the dark hanging for months on end.
So speaking of Tompkins awesome. Has a new site. We helped them with that about a year ago. And if you could do him a favor, if you were one of the attendees that went to the launch party, or if you had Wayne work on any of your taxidermy, go on there, give him a 5-star review on Google. It's easy. It's just Tompkins Taxidermy. You'll find it. It's going to pop up right there at the top. And just go ahead and give him a 5-star review. That means a lot to him. He loves the feedback. We love seeing it. And again, if you are a customer of Wayne's and you've had a good experience, just leave that there on Google reviews for us. But I guess we kind of kicked it off already. Like you said, the launch party, if you didn't make it, man, you guys missed out on an awesome event. We hype it up every year. We had good attendance. We're proud to work with the Adler Theater. They're gracious hosts. And so if you weren't able to make it, we'll give you kind of the audible review, I guess, right? The tour. So the line starts in the River Center, which is an attached building, and we had quite the line again
all night
when people were walking in. We opened up the doors, and the first thing that you hit, just like you said, Grant, was a host of deer, and there was an otter. My bear mount was there. I'm trying to think, but it was mostly deer this year.
It was mostly whitetails. Yep.
And gosh, there were some slobs. There was a typical that I don't know was every bit of 185, maybe bigger. There were some of my favorite deer there, some just hammer 8s. I mean, 150, 160, maybe even bigger class, true 8-pointers. I know that there were deer that neighbors had shot that they got to see for the first time.
Yep.
I-9 was there. Buster was there. Snickers was there. TJ was there. Yep. Kevin Gates was there. So these deer that you get to see. Pickles was there. These deer that you're going to get to watch and that you got to watch at the event get shot. You got to actually say, okay, that's what he looks like on the screen. This is what he looks like in real life.
Yep.
And we just had a ton of fun with that. Wayne
back to the lower bowl. That was a great feeling.
Yeah. Yep. We had. So when you come in, you get to see all the deer mounts, and then you hook a sharp right as you enter the official theater, and there the Adler put on the full fixin'. We had full bar, both liquor and beer, concessions with hot food, and then we obviously at 6:30 they tapped the kegs that we had bought for the party. When you go into the theater was amazing. They always have done a good job making sure it's cool. We host this event in the summer, and it wasn't near as hot as it was last year.
Nope.
But incredibly comfortable.
We did get lucky with the weather.
Yeah,
when we were packing out.
It was raining just a touch. But you get into the Adler, and that lower bowl holds about 1,000 people. So it's pretty impressive when you walk in there and you see the big splash screen up. All of our prizes were down on stage, and then the show begins. So we opened with what?
Yeah, we opened with the Colorado Billy Goat Hunt. So that was awesome. That's the hunt that you, Shane, Robert, and Tyler,
that goofy dude,
went on last year. Before season kicked off here in Illinois. So that was a trip in which you were able to shoot your bear. Robert drew a once-in-a-lifetime mountain goat tag for a unit in his home state of Colorado, and that was the first hunt. And there was so many, like my feedback, because we were sitting in the front, in the reserve seating area, and my feedback, as the very beginning of the film begins and you guys are like hiking in over the slide rock and stuff, you could hear people just like oohing and ahhing, because it's just such a more rugged and different hunt than it happens in Illinois. Walking in on the edge of a field or something on some farm ground in Illinois isn't definitely quite as badass as going up the mountain face, and all those footage and all the times that you had pointed like, here's where we are, there's where we're going. I could just hear the audience having conversations in the background, just with being impressed with like, holy shit, like this is a rugged hunt. Like this is sweet that this was able to be filmed like this. And I thought that was a really cool way to start it off, because, most of our audience, 99%, are whitetail hunters, and to give them something new on top of the whitetail films was a great way to start it, I felt. And Robert and Shane surprised you and ended up coming.
So
that was cool.
Let's talk about that really quick. So Logan, our event's on Friday. I took Friday off, and Thursday night, scrambled to get everything ready. I'm doing the video check, and I'm freaking out because like I'm making sure that it's going right. And my computer's like going, "Hey, this project is huge." And I'm worried that it's lagging, which it wasn't. Perfectly fine. Get all the gear packed up, and we have the big setup day because Friday, met Wayne and we hung all the deer heads. Then we go back for final setup, and Logan told me, she's like, "Well, Thursday I'm going out with my work friends. We're gonna have drinks," and I'm in the back of my mind, I was like, who goes out on a Thursday night? Like, you have to work tomorrow. But I'm like, okay, cool. Whatever you want to do. She's like, I'll be home about 8:39. And then I'm like thinking, yeah, you're going out with your work friends to drink margaritas and have Mexican. You're not going to be home by 9.
Yep.
And so I tuck myself into bed, and I'm an old soul. Like, I'm crawling into bed about 9 o'clock. I wake up early, but I go to bed early. And I literally shut the lamp off, and I roll over, and it's just after 9, and our cameras go off, and I'm like, okay, I look at it, and it's Logan, and she's backing in the garage. I'm like, wow, she did get home early. I was like, okay. And I'm laying in bed, and I was like waiting in our bedroom. Our bed faces our door, so if I'm laying like looking at my feet, I can look out my bedroom door. And I was like looking on my phone, making sure my alarms are set, and then I look up, and there's 2 guys, and I see Logan is filming with her phone, but there's 2 men with her, and they're both bearded, and they're like just sticking their head around the jam, and I'm like, what are you doing? I didn't know who they were, and Shane's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, and your mind's going a million miles an hour, and of course I've got the gun by the bedside, and if I wouldn't have seen the cameras come in and Logan wouldn't have been standing there, I don't know what would have happened, because Robert's like, dude, you're an idiot for doing that, Shane, because Shane wanted to come in there and surprise me, and Shane's like, Robert's like, you're going to get shot, and he's like, I'm going to be like, surprise, you shot Shane. So,
welcome to Illinois, bitches.
and so they started laughing. I finally realized who it was, but like all the lights were off except for my bedroom lamp,
Yep.
And then the fact that they were hiding because they didn't know how I was going to react. It's like, I'm like, okay, Logan doesn't work with any dudes that are huge that have beards. Like,
right.
Who are you? But anyway, super funny. And, when I actually went to the bathroom, I had guys ask me, they're like, was it really that steep where you were? I'm like, yeah. Like, dude.
It's hardcore out there, man.
And there's hardly any flat spots. Like, the flat spots aren't flat. They're just not steep.
Yeah. It's just gradual.
Yeah. Right.
It's an incline. Everywhere you go out there.
Everywhere. And so, I don't know. That was a cool experience to go on. And if you didn't come, you'll be able to see these on the YouTube. We haven't really figured out when we're going to start throwing them up there. But we'll talk about that and probably mention that here soon. It's going to be before deer season. We'll start throwing them on the boob tube. But the second episode came, and that was Snickers, which was another fun hunt. Like, I feel like the feeling for that hunt was just a lot of smiles for me.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't.
That was a fun day.
Doesn't hurt that Logan's like all bubbly and giddy, and like just that, like you said, that day was a ton of fun.
Oh, yeah.
So Snickers, go ahead and talk about that one.
So Snickers, obviously that's the buck Logan shot last year. It's a deer that we knew about in 2020. Logan killed him in 21. In 20, I didn't feel like we thought he was as heavy as he was. He was a nice deer. He was definitely on the hit list in 20. And we tried to get in front of him, but he was kind of just ghosting us here and there, and mainly just showing up at dark, honestly,
right
in the center.
I don't think we had any daylight pictures of him.
No.
In 20.
So that deer was tricky to figure out, and I thought that was a really sweet hunt just because, to your surprise, like imagine you're alone by yourself. Logan knows where she's going out there and everything, and imagine texting your friends like, hey, happy opening day, looking up and seeing a deer, not just a deer, but a deer of that caliber.
Yeah.
Like a deer that, I don't know, that's got to be, he's in the caliber of class, like as just as heavy as and impressive as Geronimo. Like if you saw him as he was mounted on the form, like his bases are huge.
Well, I guess to give the listeners an idea,
awesome.
Her dad and uncle scored the deer at Thanksgiving. They like to do that. And he's over 160 inches, and he didn't have a tine over 8.
Yep.
So So comprehend that as a 9-pointer, which his 9th point was about 1 inch and 7/8.
Yep.
Like he's 160 inches, but he doesn't have a
8-pointer essentially.
Yeah, over 8 inches. Like he's
That's
just
how
all
heavy
mass.
he is.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got nice long beams, but he's just freaking heavy. And like he's one of those deer where his tines are thick too, which doesn't do a damn bit for score, which who cares? It just adds that tone of impressiveness.
Yep.
Because when he swings his head, you see those big fat banana tines sticking up. And he's got some hooks and curls and split brows.
He's got awesome extras too.
But yeah, and then I remember we're sitting there, because Grant and I were in a different farm, we're hunting for TJ, and like you get that call, and like, right?
Somebody calls you at that time during deer season of gun opening day or just first gun season period. You're like, oh boy.
Oh yeah, and then you can hear just how excited she is through the phone, and she didn't know exactly what deer it was because Logan's really good about, okay, once she realizes the kill switch is on, like that deer is a shooter for her, she does her best not to focus on the rack, where I feel like we're very analytical, like what deer is it, Yeah. She's not like that. She's like, yep, I want to kill him.
Yep.
Focus on the shot. She totally throttled this buck. Perfect shot. I mean, he couldn't walked up and put the bullet in a better spot. And I'll never forget this.
I think had we been in an elevated blind with her too, like at the place, we've always talked about putting an elevated blind like exactly where she was.
Yeah.
And if we were in an elevated blind, we would have watched that deer fall over.
100%.
Yep.
Even if you'd have been in a deer stand.
Yep. I watched him die.
So anyway, like I'll never forget it. Logan's excited. We have the phone conversation, and she's like, "I'll send you a Snapchat of the video." And I shut it off, and I turn to you, and I'm like, "What deer do you think it is?" And you're like, "Dude," because she's like, "I shot a giant," and I was like, "Do you think it's Twix or Hershey's?" And you're like, "She knows what a giant is." She's like, "It's one of two deer. It's either Snickers or Laffy Taffy."
Yep.
And then we get the Snapchat, and I'm like,
"Whoa, it's Snickers."
Snickers. So. Yeah,
his rack is awesome how it like splays out open too. It's one of those deer where his main beams don't curl in. There's no halo effect at all. It's one of those things where it comes up off the pedicle and it just goes like almost straight outward.
Like a Texas deer, but
yeah.
fat.
Yeah. With just a ton of mass.
And the cool thing is that farm, there must be a gene out there that we've killed 2 deer in the past several years that have had a mane, 2 bucks specifically.
Yeah.
And this deer, I think it helps. I believe it helps with age, but Snickers' mane was very pronounced. Like in the video, you can see it plain as day. Wayne made sure to save it on the mount. Like it's a good 2-inch mane. Like and it's probably 6 inches long.
Yep.
And the pedestal mount that she chose, that form, really kind of shows it off and emphasizes it even more, especially when you're behind it.
Yep.
But yeah, I remember sitting there and I'm like, we're going to come and help you find it. And you could tell she hesitated just a second because she wanted to go look.
Yeah.
But she was good and she walked right back and we met her at the house. We watched the footage.
We're like, oh, you smoked it. Let's go get him.
And like
dead deer.
That's just the best feeling ever.
Oh, yeah.
When you watch the footage and you just throttled him and then like you have the best people with you to go find them.
Yep.
Oh man. So
that was a great one. And everybody just lost their mind because that was like that was a much different impact shot. Like, when we're talking about like specifically the episodes and the footage here, like an impact shot, we do our best to like get in, like, especially with the goat hunt, like that shot was far. Yeah. And so it's a lot, it was like 500-600 yards versus Logan 55 or 60 yards.
Right.
I mean, so he's like center frame, and we're like, the crowd lost their mind when she throttled him. Yeah, smoked him in the eruption of the crowd. Like, that's one of my favorite things at the launch party. Anytime the kill shot sequence rolls around, the shot happens, and people, whoa, the crowd gets jacked up, amped. And so that was awesome. Then as we rolled on, we're giving like our giveaways and stuff. So we had a bunch of throwables this year. Usually we try to make sure that like 50-60% of the audience attending gets a prize.
Or a chance, yeah.
Or a chance at a prize, whether those be thrown out or drawn in the ticket tumbler. And so there was a lot of people that were very thankful, very grateful for the things. And there was a ton of people this year. I don't know, probably 50 or 60 people as I was just walking around after the show that came up and shook my hand and were like, hey, thank you so much for the gear. Thanks for the night. Thanks for the beer. And that feels good. We always appreciate that.
Well, speaking of that, for the first time this year, we kind of asked who was the furthest, right? And barring Shane and Robert, which I don't even know if they would have been depending on where this guy came from, but somebody drove all the way from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And he went home with a Badlands pack. We were like, dude,
you earned
this. Yeah, we had more women there this year than I think we did.
We had a ton of female winners this year, I felt like.
Well, I think there's just a ton of girls that came to the show, and they loved it, man.
There was a time when I was like drawing tickets for you, and I was like, man, this is the 7th girl in a row. What's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, good place for single guys to be.
Yeah.
Come here and find the perfect woman. She loves hunting, and she's like, but we had the oldest person in the crowd was 81.
Mm-hmm.
And that was neat. And then we had a ton of kids there. We do our best to make this kid friendly.
Yep.
It does get rowdy, and there's some minor cuss words that are maybe thrown out during the episodes, but nothing that wouldn't be PG-13 rated. No hard words like that. And this year, we didn't have any. We didn't have any boobs fall out when we were doing the giveaways, which was good. There was no skin, no win this year. We've had that happen in the past. It's been eventful and fun, really eye-opening for you looking back at the crowd. But we didn't have that this year. And the cool thing, speaking about people that thanked us, is that when I went to the gym, there was a couple of guys like at the gym in the morning. I get there really early, right? And I don't usually talk to people. I'm the guy that's like, probably, this is some asshole.
You put your headphones on and you're there to take care of business.
And I I'll give people the head nod or maybe a fist bump if I see them a lot. But I had a couple guys come up and I'm like, dude, I didn't realize who you were, but that was freaking awesome. Yeah. And it's like, hey, pretty, just like, like you said afterwards, people just kind of come up to you. But I guess the next film, I-9.
There was one cuss word as TJ was walking away from us as he winded us on the first night when we went in there to saddle hunt him and we had our first encounter.
Yeah, you motherfucker.
I was like, motherfucker.
I left that in there because it was kind of funny because it wasn't a hard ER. I kind of thought it, the same type of privileges that you use with like the N-word. If it ends in GA, it's not bad.
Geez.
ER, it's bad. Boy. Well, you mean it's just the truth. So I fit motherfucker isn't bad, but motherfucker, like, different.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
We can fix it if it's going to be a problem. Real easy, quick fix. But, goddamn, dude, we'll get into TJ. But, so I-9, third film of the night. Crazy hunt, typical Matt and Jesse fashion.
I was thinking about this on the way here as we were like planning on talking about the launch party, and I was thinking like all the ludicrous stuff that they've pulled off. And I was trying to think about it. And I was thinking like, all right, the redemption buck. Matt's sitting on his butt, new farm, first day, on the ground, like 45-yard shot, and he shot it through one of those cherries that has like a split in the trunk, like in the perfect spot, and he threaded the needle. Like that's a poke, and that that was back in 2012. So bow technology wasn't quite as good back there. It was on the up and up, but that was a great shot. They killed
multiple deer on the ground with a bow. 6
or 7 deer on the ground. Then they kill on last day of muzzleloader season. Snort wheezed him in, shoot him frontal at like 30 yards with the muzzleloader off the ground, no blind. Yeah. And it's just like all this stuff for them to then belly crawl
and climb in the tree.
That's
the thing. Like the crawling in, I could say, okay, I believe that. If I'm hearing this story without the film to back it up. But it's like, because grass is tall, and you can tell in the film, like, it's windy. They got a lot of cover noise and cover movement. Mm-hmm. But then they get there, and they have to literally climb up the tree with this buck and group of does there, 60 to 80 yards away.
Yep.
Like, that to me is the feat that not one but 2 of them crawled up the tree. Like, that's a lot of movement, even if you're trying to be, like, stealthy about it. Mm-hmm. It's like, holy crap, man.
Yeah.
You got away with it. I'm perplexed that they would be, like, that they left their stuff in the tree.
Yeah.
We've left, like, our camera arm in the tree.
Yep.
But, like, never our bow and camera. Mm-hmm. I know they don't do that overnight, but I'm just like, holy crap.
It's really lucky that we have like backup cameras and everything like that at our disposal and GoPros. Otherwise, like if they would have told me that without the supporting footage, I was been like, what?
Yeah.
But they got it, and that was impressive for me.
Snapchats that we saved, and like the GoPro saved that. Like
That's just insane.
So the story is of I-9's this massive 9-pointer that they've had a lot of history with, and it goes back all the way to when they killed Fade. And so this deer is just a tone of its own with its impressiveness. The footage shows him off, but when you see him in person, you're just like, holy crap, man. This deer's huge.
Basically a 170 class straight 8 with like a 5-inch, he's a 9, but I mean, giant. Man, he's a huge deer.
Yes. And so
Jesse's second boon in like 7 years.
And Jesse gets him in tight too, man.
Yep.
Because the Brody buck was like
5-6 yards.
Super close. And then this deer was sub 20. And anywho, they make this crazy crawling because they had to leave from their morning hunt to go do some errands. They left all the crap in their tree. And then they get back, and Jesse's got his bino harness, right? And like they realize there's literally deer on the flat that their stand is at. So then they crawl in 300, 350 yards, climb into the tree, and they give like a little kiss on the grunt tube, and here the does and buck come. And not only is it like crazy, incredible thing that they got into the tree undetected, but then I-9 like literally comes and walks perfectly in their shooting lane, the big one that they want to make, like where they want it to happen.
Yep.
Backlit with sun, like heart shot. I mean, it's like, this is what whitetail dreams are made of.
Yeah.
And they get down because they're like, Jesse's like, it was a touch low than what I wanted. And you always are cautious as a bow hunter, and they get down and there he is. Like they literally see him from the base of the tree.
He smoked him right in that soft spot too, like armpit. I would call it an armpit shot. It wasn't really, in the mid ribs at all. Like it wasn't a high, like, because I feel like blood trails go crazy when they're in like that high heart with all those ventricles coming out, and you also are clipping the bottom of the lungs. Like that's double whammy. But it was just straight heart, like chop it in half with a.
Those are like, we have some footage from way back when, right, of a couple deer that we've killed as a team, and like those low heart shots where the deer knows something wrong but runs like 50 yards away, and it's literally just like a garden hose of blood coming out.
Just whoop, whoop.
Yes, like literally like when he rocks left or right, like it like spills out because the hole's so low in this cavity.
And I think one of the things on that too, just like thinking out loud here, I feel like those really low heart shots when the gate is open, like their onside to you leg is swung open, exposing the heart, which is exactly what it was. I feel like when deer get hit there and they're not aware.
Yeah, because Jesse didn't stop him either.
Yeah, when they get hit there and they're not aware, it's such a soft spot, and it's such a in and out wham through the bottom of the cavity where there's like, it's just a soft spot. It's not like busting a deer in the shoulder. It's not like an area where you're quartered to and you're drilling through a lot of media. Like where you're drilling through 30 inches or something. It's like, the bottom of a buck's cavity, 12 inches down there at the bottom of the brisket, but just high enough to chop the heart in half. I mean, it's 12, 14 inches wide, and it's just in and out, and they don't know what's hit them, and then they run, and massive blood trail, dry as a bone when you find them. No blood on the inside because it's so low.
Yeah, there's like nothing left.
Yep.
So that was such a cool hunt. And the crowd absolutely went bonkers too when Jesse shot that deer. And then, like, the finale, if you will, or the last show of the evening was a deer we called TJ. And again, one of the coolest stories that we've been able to tell. I
think the only reason for me that TJ's not better than Geronimo is, Geronimo is a monster. And TJ's big, but Geronimo's like monster big. I think if TJ would have been like in that 170 category, this would be our best story with a deer, just because of how patient we were with this deer. With getting wiped out with EHD. Like we had him and Geronimo were equally, right there in terms of the amount of history, the amount of trail camera videos.
I think we had more
where he was
history
living
with.
Yeah, I mean, it was just ridiculous. The amount of encounters. I mean, from filming him as a 4-year-old, from watching him as a 3-year-old, to killing him at 5, having that encounter in October. I mean, it was an awesome story. Yeah, you did a great job piecing that together. There was a lot of really cool stuff in that film. That was probably our best one.
This was my first year of like editing new age stuff. I messed around with like Windows Media Player when we were JAG, but nothing like this. So like you get it. You've done it for 5 years, 6 years. Like. Yep. You have this weight to like do the story justice, to do the footage justice, to do the animal justice, to like with I-9 to make Matt and Jesse proud. And you're like, God, I hope I did a good job. Like with Robert's hunt, like, man, I hope I captured it enough that like when his son Jagger is old enough, he'll be like, hey, look what your dad did. Yeah. And so like with TJ, everybody has their own way to do it, but you sit down and you kind of like start to develop this timeline that you want, this story that you want to tell. Yep. And it was crazy. I mean, you got to watch the episode to understand, but it goes all the way back to 2018, which was really one of our best years.
Yeah, it was like it was an incredible year.
You know, Lucky was I will never forget that morning. Like,
yeah, that was crazy.
And the story of Lucky was so cool. Like, it was the first time that we started to adopt this like reactive style of hunting. We moved the stand and we used a decoy, and we got kind of aggressive.
That's what we got addicted to, was using that decoy, and then we just started plowing deer with decoys for like the next 4 years.
You did, yeah. Shit, yeah. And it's like that year was like an aha moment. We had so much momentum, and then that summer, like,
I love our decoy.
That summer of 2018, we had a pretty boy, which was a deer that we had passed, and we knew he was going to be awesome. And then
tons of footage,
punch to the gut.
He was huge that year too. We're talking like maybe 180s, caliber, huge,
massive deer,
dead,
and so many other deer were dead too. And it's like, so then we pivot. We adapt, we overcome. Like, we had to hunt a new farm with a whole new set of challenges, and we had to get a new farm, which was a whole set of challenges. Yeah. And like, immediately we went into the management mode, which is another thing that we've adopted. Like, the evolution of how we've hunted has been pretty awesome to me. Like, because we haven't stagnated yet. And like, I mean, even this year with the addition of the new properties that you have, like, you're going to learn more and you're going to understand more on how to hunt different places and new places and how to manage them better. And so that was the story of TJ, from, it was like a high note in 2018 to a kick to the dick that summer. Yep. And then, instead of just pouting.
We knew about him in 18 as a 2-year-old. Got a ton of pictures of him 3 and 19. 20 at 4. Got a ton of pictures of him 21 at 5. We were debating on whether he was, 4 or 5. And we sent the teeth in. He was 5. I just felt like that is his 3. Like, what I felt, I'm like, man, that was what did it for me. I'm like, looking at his 3-year-old pictures, I'm like, that just looks bigger than a 2-year-old to me.
The reason
like
why
his rack just looks bigger than a 2-year-old.
I agree. His 3-year-old. The thing that was like for me that was the big deal was his 4 to 5 transition. Like, he didn't.
Yeah, it's totally stagnated actually.
Yeah, and I mean, not every deer has it right to pack it on, but like you expect some type of a growth.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about actually some of our hit list deer, which maybe that farm has that stagnation. I'm just saying, like.
It's not for lack of nutrition, I'll tell you that.
No, but like if you think about the deer that we've killed, like Lucky is the only one that I know that really had
made a massive jump.
The expected jump that you would want from a healthy 4-year-old to a healthy 5-year-old, but a lot of the other deer have not done that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Who knows? I'm not a wildlife biologist.
That's an interesting theory.
It is, because like at the other farm, like the farm of where Snickers is, look at the jump that Snickers had from what we believe to be 4 to 5.
Pretty big.
Pretty significant, right? Like, and Twix, when he went from 3 to 4, pretty big.
Pretty big.
So we have these other control groups, and it in
we have a theory on why that is, though.
What?
The water source.
I know, but there's water at the other farm. Yeah. It's just anyway.
Not in the quality and the quantity, though.
To finish up with TJ, like I don't know. I'm not impressed with the shot. It definitely wasn't where I was aiming, but I took a freaking poke with a shotgun, with a 12 gauge shotgun. It was 278 yards. And
yep. But that's why we bought that scope. Like, that's what we put that scope on there for. Maybe not for a shot that far, but we wanted to make a 200-yard shot, a chip shot, just like 100 felt. That was our goal. Make a 200-yard shot like just a chip shot, and that scope has enabled us to do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was a good call.
Absolutely.
And if we didn't have that piece of glass and we were rocking like a 8-power scope, I mean, that shot's not doable. It's it's unethical to do. But I mean, at that distance with that scope, that is a doable shot. Yeah. And you made the shot.
Yeah. So pretty freaking crazy.
Yeah.
But that deer's awesome. If you guys haven't seen him, the coolest thing about TJ to me is is his cape. He's had that double throat patch, which is really, it's not even a double. It's like a solid throat patch that's 3 times as long as normal. But, I guess getting into it, if you guys came.
Big shout out to everybody that made the trip. Yes. We know that you guys were coming from far away. We hope you sucked down those kegs of beer pretty dang quick. All the prizes were, there were so many people that were so appreciative. So we really thank you for doing that, because it's a free event and we like putting it on. But yeah, big shout out to you guys for making that night special. Congratulations to all the people that shot a nice one last year and were able to take it to Wayne, get mounted, and actually are probably at this point in time have it hung up somewhere on the wall at home. And yeah, it was a great night, great attendance. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I stayed out way too late, man. But anywho, getting into the would you rathers. We got 6 of them lined up here. We're gonna alternate. So I'm gonna ask Grant first. Would you rather go on Alone or Naked and Afraid?
Well, I think on Naked and Afraid, the bugaboo I have with that is most of the locations that they do that in are tropical so that the people can be naked. And tropical to me means bugs.
Yes.
And I don't really, that would suck to have a colony of ants crawl up the inside of your leg and tear up your
or just
crotch.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah, that'd be the worst. And so I think I would go on Alone just because I don't think I would be super safe going on Alone. I feel like I can hack it for, maybe with the ceiling of a month completely on my own, but I just think that would be way too much time for me to sit by idly, mentally, and just talk to myself. I'm like, whoa, I need to actually talk to another human being.
So
I would feel like I would pick Alone.
I asked you this because my dad watches way too much stuff, and he was like, he's been trying to get us to watch Alone.
It's a great show.
We watched a little bit of one where they were in, I believe, Alaska, and the episode that we watched happened to be where the dude killed a moose. I was like, this guy's badass. But I agree. Surviving or whatever, yeah, as long as you give me
on Naked and Afraid, you get a pair, though, I think. I think there's a male and a female pair.
That's great,
to keep you company.
What are you going to, right. I get you have the mental security of
I would rather
do
Alone, but
it's like you said, it's to me, what you can make a lot of stuff with a saw and a hatchet. Mm-hmm. I can't make a pair of boots.
Right.
Well, I can't make a pair of pants.
Yeah.
Nah,
I guess you could. You could have to get yourself some skins.
Yeah.
Sewing it up with vines and stuff.
So, okay, next one.
Oh, the next one. Would you rather... Oh, yeah, I asked you this earlier. Mm-hmm. Would you rather give up your bow tags or your gun tags this year?
Well, this year, definitely would rather give up my bow tags. But I... In a normal year, I think I would say I'd rather give up my gun tags for 2 reasons. First off, bow season is so much longer.
Yep.
If you told me, hey, you've got 10 days to be able to kill a buck in Illinois, or you have 3.5 months, I believe that the biggest factor in killing a lot of deer is time. So I would pick the bow tags, and you can still, well, I guess you can't, but if you have a gun tag, you can still bow hunt during gun season. But again, yeah. Just time kills deer, I think.
I agree.
Going on to the next one. Would you rather, one or the other, would you rather gun hunt with iron sights this year or bow hunt without a peep?
I would rather gun hunt with iron sights. I would rather, like you said, have my archery set up rocking and rolling for 3 months.
Right.
Just because, like you said, time kills deer, and if you're smart about it and you're efficient about it, I feel like if you were in the right spot at the right time and can just up your odds, I feel like your odds are better with a bow if you can get in there when you need to. So that's what I would pick.
This is a tough one for me, just because, right? The whole reason we have the guns that we do is so we can
I guess you could use a kisser.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, if you have a
really train yourself,
button,
yeah,
and if you anchor every time,
hypothetically,
you should be, air quotes, should be fine. But I agree with you, though. I would do the peep just because of, like I said, 3.5 months, 10 days.
Yeah.
Next one.
Would you rather have your sight break or your drop away arrow rest break during a hunt?
100% sight. And the reason for this answer is our experience in Colorado. If my rest breaks, my bow can't function. Like, even if it can just sit there and it doesn't like drop away, like my bow is still out of tune. Like, it's not operating correctly. But if my sight, like, let's say, I don't know what type of break it would happen, but let's say like my wheel doesn't spin and it's locked in some random ass thing. Like, I can still know, like, okay, my bow is going to hit here at 20 yards. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to still function. It's going to shoot the arrow
appropriately.
Yeah, but like when you're rest broke in Colorado, you're shit out of luck, man.
Yeah.
Like, the bow's not going to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a roll of the dice where it's going to go.
Yeah.
So this,
next one.
I'm so glad you got this one. Would you rather, you have to use one or the other during all of season, right?
Mm-hmm.
You either shower with scentless soap or use scentless deodorant. So that means if you pick scentless soap, you have to use
scented deodorant.
Or if you use scentless deodorant, you have to use scented soap.
Oh, man. Well, during deer season, I shower a lot anyway. So I feel like I would take the scentless soap. That's what I would go with.
I think that's
unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you could try to find some, like, not smack a deer and then, like, no, don't get, like, Dove
Irish
for men.
Spring.
Like, you could go get, like, canola oil and honey shea butter. Like,
yes,
that's organic.
Something
smelling,
more tame.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. But having, like, scented deodorant, I would just cringe, like, putting on
my camo.
Yeah, and just
crying
like,
every time.
Oh,
cool. My base layers smell like Old Spice.
Yeah. Okay, last one.
Oh, would you rather hunt when it was 90 degrees out or negative 20 degrees ambient air temperature with a bow out of a deer stand?
This one's an easy one, I think, for me. I would hate hunting in the summer, like when it's that hot. I'm the type of guy I can sweat in a meat locker. Like, I'm the dude that literally wears my jacket in when we're walking in from like November, December, like you name it. When it's cold, like, I can't do it. I'd rather be cold or be comfortable depending on if I had the pyre and an underwarmer on. Like, I'd rather tough the cold out. You know, I know that's negative 20. Wind chill is probably much colder than that, but
yep,
man, hunting that heat's not for me, dude.
I think I would go with the heat just because it implies something to me, and what it
Sure.
implies
Kentucky
is
velvet
early season.
Yeah.
And that's something I've never done before. So I would agree with you. I would rather hunt negative 20 just because I have before, and we've done it not a lot, but enough to it's hackable. It sucks, but it's doable.
Right.
And I feel like I would go with the heat just because of, that message. But we do have an announcement here as we wrap up to earmark, especially those of you guys that live in Illinois. October
18th
is the day that over-the-counter tags go for sale.
Tags?
Tags.
Over-the-counter firearm tags go for sale on October 18th.
In Illinois. For Illinois residents, for over-the-counter, either sex.
And non-residents.
Non-residents, over-the-counter doe tags.
Yep. Like,
October 18th. Get in line at your local sporting goods store.
Small rant before we wrap this podcast up. I really don't agree with our division of wildlife, like our DNR, and the way that they do this, because turkey permits and firearm permits for deer, if you are an Illinois resident, you cannot apply and receive the 3 permits that you should be able to have.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, if you are a diehard turkey hunter, or if you're a guy like us that have maybe multiple farms in different counties we want to have these tags for, I can't over harvest my quota, but it just makes it a pain in the butt for people that have to take time off and plan to go get this. I'm all in favor of selling leftover permits, but it's like, why are you going to burden the guy that's like
prepared,
willing to apply and pay for this ahead of time? Set the alarms in your calendars and whatnot. It's just a big ass bummer, because you can still get them. There's nothing saying you can't go get your 3rd turkey permit or your other firearm permits over the counter, but you can't apply for them if you've already gotten them, a certain amount of them beforehand. It's just, I don't know, over.
You're penalizing the prepared.
Yeah, exactly. But anywho, again, thanks for everybody that attended the launch party. If you didn't come, man, you guys missed out on a hell of a night, and We got a couple up here in the hopper that are going to be awesome. We'll catch you next time. Don't waste it.